Welcome to the Actionable ESG Talk series, brought to you by AKFI, the Actionable Knowledge Foundational Institute, the world's first nonprofit industry consortium committed to bridging the gap between ESG, sustainability, and digital transformation. Actionable ESG Talk series bring together great minds to discuss the current state and future state of ESG, sustainability, and digital transformation. I'm delighted to be here with our guest, Jessica Morgenthal. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you.
And I'll take a second. I won't do justice to your outstanding biography. I'll definitely post it together with our video and invite everybody to check it out. To start, Jessica is driven by one big question. How can we change individual and societal behavior to care better for ourselves, for each other, and for the wild world we all share? A great question. She's a founder of the Resilience Gone Wild movement, an award-winning podcaster and book author. She's currently working on her upcoming book, How We Flourish, which will be in the bookstores very soon in March. Are you ready for it, Jessica?
It's
And
it's launching on World Happiness Day, which is March 20th. It's a
oh
compilation of
wow,
positive
I'll,
psychology
de-
authors.
I'll be more than happy to mark it on my calendar. I need happiness. My chapter, Jessica told us, is the wild wisdom of sleep, and it's about the need for quality sleep as told through the lens of the parrotfish sleep bubble. And that made me Google for the parrotfish sleep bubble and observe that nature came up with a solution for a little fish to be safe during the sleep. And I invite everybody to Google it. I'm not going to disclose how the chapter will wind up. So, Jessica, you do a lot of podcasts. So, I would like we are still technically at the beginning of 2026. We can say that until probably mid-May. And as we enter the February, we're already 5 days in. What emerging ESG trends do you see reshaping how companies integrate AI, sustainability, resilience, and circularity?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question we're struggling with. Like, what do we do? What are the trends? What are the patterns? And how do we stand strong and survive what seems to be bigger and bigger bumps in the road? I mean, it's risk, right? It's about how do we manage to think bigger than ourselves in what I call and my world calls win-win-win, where we need to make sure that we win our goals. We need in partnership with who we're working directly with, whether it's our direct partners in the supply
Mhm.
chain or it's our directly with our customers, that we all need to have a win. And at the same time, we have to keep the larger picture in mind. And that's the hardest part, right? Like that's so when you deal with the risks that are growing and growing, and whether we're reaching the climax of the tipping point on climate change, or where the Antarctic ice shelf is going to collapse or not, or that hurricane is going to hit, and we're not going to be prepared for it. I don't know if you can be prepared in general for it. We're dealing with harder and harder stuff, and at the same time, it's we're being given this excuse in some governing areas to just go back to the short term, to just think about the me, and pretend that all this other stuff isn't happening. So, there's this complex pressures that are giving us excuses at the same time as putting us in a place where we need to take more responsibility. And the economic pressures just keep building, right? Because the costs get greater and greater and greater. How do we protect ourselves against bigger and bigger bumps in the road? That's what resilience is, right? It's it's managing the bumps in the road, as making controlling what we can to make them as small as we can and to be ready to handle them as well as we can. And the cost of that is just getting greater and greater and greater. And the impact on larger systems is getting greater and greater. So, it's as somebody said today, I'm a guarded optimist or something like that. Dark skies with silver linings. There's all this dark sky. I'm an optimist. And I do see unbelievable silver linings, that there are so many good people out there who have committed and believe that their work has to be in this larger long-term space rather than just thinking short-term.
And you said something, a word which is very important, which is believe. We can
Mm,
believe there is a silver lining. We can believe there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and the planet itself is itself and self, and save us with the planet. I always say the planet doesn't care about having humans or not.
yeah.
And this actually, because I'm more on the information side, I see a maybe not even an attempt, but tools that bring so much information to us that it's very hard for us to sift through daily and find long trends, short trends. It's always for a piece of information there is a counter information, there is a counterfactual. So I also personally feel overwhelmed, and you mentioned that. So how can we look at the future with clarity? And I think in our conversation you mentioned and was focused on sustainability, which is the not only the reporting part, is also the future, is a strategy for the future, for people, for the planet, and yes, for profits, for the economics. And we had this discussion about sustainability versus resilience and the perspective that you mentioned at the time.
Yeah, I mean, sustainability is a word I struggle with tremendously, I have to say. To sustain what we have today, which is so degraded in so many ways, our well-being, the Earth's well-being, our systems, our corporate systems, our family systems, our community systems, our environmental systems, all of it is so degraded that this goal of sustainability and continuing to use that word feels endlessly uncomfortable for me. And the goal of maintaining or focusing on sustainability to keep what we've got. There's a lot of that. That's the world we live in today. This fight for keeping the power we have. If you think about it in terms of power,
Mhm.
is that really where we want to be? And building resilience so that when we get these bumps and we get these knocks and we get knocked down, we can come back to that space we're in now
Mhm.
is just not a big enough goal for in my view. And it's, I think, the cause of so much of this overwhelm. So I mean, do we want to keep working to be where we are now? And that creates so much anxiety and stress for the social aspect of society. I mean, we need the resilience. We need to sustain a better quality of life and a better quality of fabric of society than we have right now. So, to move to that next step of regeneration, and that word is so complicated. I think each one of these words is super complicated and complex, and we throw jargon around. And
Sure.
regenerative is really complicated. It's what does it, but at the base of it, what it really means is let's strive for something better on the other side, something that is anabolic energy that increases the positive as opposed to drains or
Mhm.
stays static. Nothing stays static. So if we can reach for the simplicity of something better than what we have versus just holding on to what we have, which is all fighter energy. Like, just to keep what we have is this innate, just fight for control and fight for stability. There is no such thing as stable. Like the
True.
whole point of resilience is to be able to handle all the movement, the fluidity of every aspect of life. And if we pretend that if we build a bigger wall, or like, I'm looking out my window, I live in Florida, and at the right now there's a seawall being built outside my window, and it's devastating to me because it was before I live on a barrier island, before it was this gorgeous, gorgeous dune, and nature was protecting us. And the turtles, one of the densest turtle nesting places in the world. And now I have this wall, and that wall is so temporary. Like it is not going to regenerate itself. It's going to degrade little by little by little. It's going to
Mhm.
rust. It's going to fail. It's going to, cracks are going to come through it. It's not going to heal itself. It's not going to do what regeneration does. It's such, to me, such a perfect metaphor of seeking sustainability. Just hold on, right, to what we've got, even though it's not great, and build another wall. So that's kind of where I am
It's,
on that dimension, those dimensions of sustainability
well,
resilience.
a couple of things actually. I'll unpack it in a couple of different directions. The wall is symbolic for out of sight, out of mind, So the ocean is not a threat. The ocean is there, but the enjoyment you have is sort of put the wall so you don't see the ocean, so you don't think about the ocean being a threat to
Mhm.
come over, come over on the shore during a storm. Also, changing a little bit in the unpacking, I wanted to mention that sustainability is two words: is sustain and ability, or sustain and capability. And that's as you very well mentioned, makes it a very complicated word. And people don't seem to they seem to be surprised actually when I tell them there are two words combined in one, right? Merged. And the ability part, it's actually the thing that humans need to build. It's not coming, we're not born rather with ability to support to understand, to support, to grow the environment, to work with the environment in our favor. And the last element here in sustainability is many times people refer to sustainability as a legal obligation or an obligation to deliver reports. And that makes resilience impossible to measure. Why I'm saying that is because resilience is about the time now and time in the future. And reports are time in the past, maybe close to time now. So we have a conflict between the way we look at sustainability as a reporting versus the sustainability, as you said, as a strategy. So I think you touch on many of these topics. Um, and again, we had a long-term global sustainability effort. Then it looks like we're losing it. It's broken in pieces. It looks more like a glass that you dropped on the floor and split in pieces, right? And uh, how do we move forward with that? We talked about resilience frameworks. I think the nature is a good teacher for us.
Yeah, I mean, you said a few things there that I love and that I'd love to respond to. And it's interesting because you reference, sustainability. And I was speaking with John Elkington the other day, who's, the guru of sustainability, and he had started a company early on called Sustainability. And I don't think he carried the messaging that he probably meant, which is just exactly as you just described. It's about our responsibility. It's about our involvement in the system that we are breaking down to be able to build it back up or at least maintain it without it collapsing. So short term versus long term, and what's our role? And you noted really importantly that, if I understood you right, that we are not being taught to to use nature, to connect with nature, and to learn from nature, which is my whole world right now. That if we stop and we pay attention to the brilliance of millions of years, as well as short-term adaptation and evolution of the species that have been around for so much longer than we have, right?
Right.
And they've survived for a reason. You look at uh, um, any of the species that I've sort of explored, and you look at a turtle, a sea turtle
Hmm.
that is covered in, it's simplicitly, it's got a hard shell on the top and a hard shell on the bottom. And that seems like it's protection, but it has so much more than that. It's figured out so much more than that. Like the intelligence of creatures that we're not giving credit to, and the intelligence of plants,
Hmm.
flora, fauna, fungi, all of it. And we're not talking about it. We're not having this conversation from the beginning that says, what can we actually learn from nature? What does it need from us? What does it need to be respected by us? What does it need so that we don't just extract and use? If we start having those conversations a lot earlier and a lot more broadly, it becomes part of the conversation of the system. We're not only talking about how to use technology, how to use our people as if they're machines. It becomes an important part of the conversation.
Absolutely. And you sort of brought me to the fact that we lost skills because the older civilizations were much more in tune with the nature by the virtue that they didn't have the technology to protect protect us. We trust too much technology, see electricity, for instance. And on the other hand, we lost that. And as you're going and explaining that, I was thinking that sometimes zoo gardens
Yeah.
have domestic animals like a cow or a sheep because people don't see don't see the nature. You know, they don't.
Yeah, they have no idea where
So
the food
they
comes
have to
from.
go to the zoo
Yeah.
to see a domesticated animal. Okay, preferably you don't see a wolf or a tiger close by, but even domestic animals are now put in cages and to be shown to students and to kids and so on. It's like, oh,
Absolutely.
here it's a
They're
cow.
shown, but they're shown in a completely artificial picture,
Absolutely.
right? Like the domesticated animals that are in the children's zoo, like the chickens and the goats and the sheep and the cows, are not living that lifestyle in their source of food, and they're not, there visibly as the petting zoo, as by the way, this is what you eat, and this is where your food comes from. There's such an incredible disconnect between us and, I mean, like we're so focused on eating things that don't look like where they came from. The
So,
ultimate to me is the chicken breast or the chicken finger, right? It's
uh-huh.
not even in a form that it was ever sliced. It's all crushed up and like
Yeah.
reformed. And it makes people separate themselves and take absolutely no responsibility. So, or sustainability is not their job.
Yep, absolutely. They and pointing out our separation from nature, right? We we live more and more isolated, more and more with walls around ourselves. Maybe walls upon walls upon walls.
Yeah. Including
Uh,
birds and bugs and everything that's part of our ecosystem that
oh,
we
sure.
all kinds of whether it's just a wall or of a material wall or if it's a gaseous wall that kills,
And
whatever it is, you're right, we are encapsulating ourselves to separate ourselves so that we don't have any responsibility.
exactly, not toward nature, and unfortunately, not toward even other human beings. And
And then things like pandemics, hurricanes, all tornado, whatever, whether it's the oceans or the weather
sure,
systems
fires.
or fire, yes, or the or a pandemic that comes from something that as that's invisible, right? That we the germ, the bacteria, the whatever that we can't even see, and it invades our space, and then we're shocked, right? It gets to that whole topic of, should we be surprised or should we be more proactive? If we understood and connected more with nature, we wouldn't be so surprised, and we would be able to handle the conversations and the next steps. But we don't
So,
know, we don't even have the language.